Your phone remembers more than you do. The notification came in at 2:17 a.m. Relive this memory from 2 years ago. I almost ignored it. Those things were usually harmless. Blurry photos, screenshots, random junk the algorithm thought meant something. But the thumbnail stopped me. It was me, standing on a beach. I don't go to beaches, not because I hate them, just I don't. Never have. I grew up nowhere near one, and I've never taken a trip that would have put me there. But there I was, barefoot in the sand, jeans rolled up, a gray hoodie I still own, the ocean behind me, flat and dark like glass. I tapped the notification. The photo opened cleanly, no distortion or weird AI artifacts, just a normal picture. It was taken at dusk, judging by the light. My face was turned slightly away from the camera, like someone had called my name, except I didn't remember anyone being there, or the picture being taken, or for that matter, me being there, or the place existing in my life at all. I checked the details. Date, April 12, 2 years ago. Time, 7:42 p.m. Location, Cannon Beach, Oregon. I stared at that for a while, then I checked my calendar. Nothing. Texts from that day, all normal. Work, couple of memes, nothing unusual. No mention of a trip, no photos sent, no calls, just a normal day. I should have closed it there, called it a glitch, a cloud sync error, or misattributed metadata, something else boring and explainable. Instead, I scrolled. There were more. The app had grouped them into a quote, memory. Same day, same location, me walking along the shoreline, me sitting on a piece of driftwood, me holding a paper cup, laughing at something just out of frame. And that one made my chest tighten, because I wasn't just there. I looked comfortable, like I belonged. I checked the camera roll manually. All the photos were there, dozens of them. Not in a separate album, not flagged as imports, just part of the timeline. Between photos I did remember. April 11, a picture of my dinner. April 12, the beach. April 13, screenshot of an email. No gaps, no breaks, no sign anything unusual had happened except for the fact that I had no memory of April 12. I told myself it was stress, and that's what people say, right? You forget things, days blur together, your brain skips recording the unimportant parts. But this wasn't unimportant. This was a full day, a trip, a place I'd never been. People don't just forget that. I didn't sleep after that. I kept scrolling. The next notification came the following morning. Relive this memory from 1 year ago. I opened it before I could stop myself. This time it was a hospital room. The lighting was fluorescent and harsh, the kind that flattens everything. The photo was taken from a low angle, like the phone had been resting on a table. In the frame, a bed, white sheets, a figure lying in it. Me. My eyes were closed, there was an IV in my arm, a monitor behind me, numbers frozen in the still image. I looked wrong. Not injured, at least not visibly, just empty. I checked the date, June 3rd last year. I went straight to my messages, scrolled back. Again, that week was normal. Work complaints, a group chat argument, a reminder about a bill, but no hospital, no mention of being sick, nothing. I checked my call history, nothing. I zoomed in on the photo. There was a whiteboard behind the bed, patient info written in dry erase marker. The name was mine, the date matched. Under the notes section, there was something partially cut off by the frame. Just one visible line. Short-term memory. The rest was cropped. I dropped the phone. Not dramatically, just let it slip out of my hand onto the bed like it had gotten too heavy. I didn't want to open the app again, but I did, and the photos kept going. Birthdays I didn't remember celebrating. A group of people around me, smiling, arms slung over shoulders I didn't recognize. A restaurant I'd never been to. A mirror selfie where my eyes were red, face blotchy like I'd been crying for hours. And that one I was holding the phone up like I wanted to say something, like I was about to record. That's when I started checking the metadata on everything, every image, every file. They were all taken on my device. Same model, same serial number, no edits, no imports. The timestamps lined up perfectly, no overlaps, no gaps, just a continuous, unbroken record of my life. Except my memory didn't match it. And by the third day, I stopped trying to explain it. I just started looking. And that's when I found the video. It wasn't surfaced as a memory. It wasn't highlighted or grouped, just buried. 3 seconds long, no thumbnail. I almost skipped it. I wish I had. But I tapped it. The video opened on my face. Close, too close, like I'd been holding the phone at arm's length, but leaning in. The lighting was dim. Same apartment. Same room, my room. My eyes were wide, focused, terrified. I spoke immediately. No hesitation, no build-up. If you're seeing this and don't remember... I paused. Just for a fraction of a second, like I was listening to myself. Don't trust them when they say it's stress. The video ended. I replayed it over and over, looking for something I missed, a reflection, a sound, anything. But I didn't find anything. Just me, talking to me about something I don't remember. That's when the next notification came. Relive this memory from tomorrow. I stared at that for a long time, long enough that the screen dimmed and then went black. But I tapped it anyway. The image loaded slowly, not glitching, just delayed. It was my apartment. Same angle as the video, facing the window. The room was empty. Outside, through the glass, red and blue lights flickered. Police? The timestamp read, tomorrow, 11:26 p.m. I checked the caption. You won't remember this either. I don't know how long I sat there, phone in my hand, screen glowing, waiting for something to change, but nothing did. Eventually, I locked it, set the phone down, tried to breathe. I told myself I wouldn't look again, that I'd wait. I'd see if tomorrow came and went like normal. There's one thing I can't stop thinking about. The photos. The ones I don't remember. They're not random. They're not meaningless. They're moments. Specific ones. Important enough to capture. Important enough to keep. I don't remember any of them. At least, not until the phone showed me. Which means, whatever happens tomorrow, there's a version of me who already lived it. Thought it was important enough to save. Edit history. I didn't notice it at first. And that's the part that bothers me now. It wasn't like some big dramatic glitch. There was no flashing cursor or corrupted text. It was just a normal night and a normal document. The quiet hum of autosave doing what it always does. I was working late, 2 a.m., maybe later, cleaning up a draft that I'd been stuck on for weeks. It was personal, not something I planned to publish, just something I needed to write. The kind of document you keep open in a browser tab for days, weeks, and you write a paragraph, delete half of it, then rewrite it softer, safer, easier to live with. I opened the version history because I wanted something back. There had been a line earlier. It was sharp and uncomfortable. I'd cut it. I couldn't remember exactly how I'd phrased it, just that it felt closer to the truth than anything in the current draft. So I clicked File, Version History, See Version History. The panel slid open to the right, timestamps, snapshots, My name repeated over and over. At first glance, nothing looked wrong. It was just a list of edits across the past few days. That was until I started reading the times. 3:12 a.m., 4:47 a.m., 5:03 a.m. I stared at the screen. I don't stay up that late. Not anymore. I don't get up that early either. So I clicked one. The document rewound and a slightly older version loaded. A few sentences worded differently, nothing dramatic. A paragraph rearranged, but the tone was harsher, less filtered. I scrolled, and there it was. A line I didn't remember writing. It said, "You keep rewriting this part so you don't have to say what actually happened." Well, I froze. I mean, that wasn't part of the draft. Not the version I'd been working on. Not anything I would have written like that. It's too direct, too pointed. I checked the author and yeah, my name. I felt something small and cold settle in my chest. Okay, maybe an account breach. That made sense. Someone got in, messed with the doc, left something creepy behind. People do that shit. So I opened a new tab, checked my account activity, recent logins, my laptop, my phone, same locations, same IP address. No unfamiliar devices, no suspicious access. I went back to check the document and clicked another version. This one was older, more changes, whole sentences shifted, words replaced with sharper ones. Uncomfortable became untrue. I don't remember clearly became I don't want to remember. I kept scrolling. Each version peeled something back. Not adding new content, like revealing it. Like earlier drafts had been more honest, and I'd been sanding them down over time. Except I didn't remember writing any of those older versions. I scrolled further, and the timestamps got stranger. Not just late night, but times I knew I wasn't working. Like, times I was asleep, at work. Times I was out. Every single edit. My name. I clicked an even older version. The document snapped into place. It was shorter and rougher, and in the middle of a paragraph I vaguely recognized, there was another line that said, "You deleted this 3 times already." No, I didn't. Those words sat there, unmoving, certain. My cursor blinked at the top of the page like it was waiting for me. I backed out and opened the current version again, the safe one, the one I remembered writing. The line wasn't there. I checked the version history again, scrolled, clicked, compared. Each older version contained more of those lines, more commentary, not random or malicious, specific and targeted. Things like, "You changed the date," "That's not where it happened," or "You left that part out again." And by this time, my breathing had gone shallow. I hadn't noticed when it started, but I scrolled all the way down to the very first entry, the earliest version, the one created before I even remembered starting the document. I clicked it. The screen went blank for a second, then loaded, and there was no draft, no paragraphs, no structure, just one single line centered on the page. It said, "This is where you started forgetting." I leaned back in my chair, hard, like the distance might help, or, like putting space between me and the screen might make it less real. It didn't. I stared at the sentence. I waited for it to change, for something to explain it. But of course nothing did. My hands moved before I decided to move them. Back to the current version. The familiar draft appeared, clean, controlled, mine. I placed the cursor at the end of a paragraph, hesitated. Then I typed, "What actually happened?" I didn't hit enter. The cursor just blinked, and then it moved. It wasn't a jump or a glitch. It was more smooth, like a deliberate slide across the line, like someone else had taken control of the mouse. Then letters began to appear, one by one. Stop deleting this. Well, I jerked my hands away from the keyboard, but the cursor kept moving. You asked me to keep it. Fuck, my throat tightened. No, I said to the room, to the screen, to whatever. But the text continued. You said you wouldn't forget again. I slammed the laptop shut. Silence. For a second. Then the soft, unmistakable sound of the notification chime. I opened it again, slowly. The document was still open, still active, cursor still blinking at the bottom. And then it moved again. You always come back here. I grabbed the mouse. I tried to close the tab, but a prompt appeared. You have unsaved changes. But I hadn't typed anything. So I hit discard. The screen flickered, then returned to the document, and nothing had changed. Except... I opened the version history one last time, scrolled to the most recent edits, and there was a new entry, just seconds ago. I looked at the author. It was not my name. It wasn't an unknown account either. It was a new label. It said, Original You. Oh, my hands went cold. I clicked it. The document shifted. The safe language was gone. All the softened edges stripped away. In their place was that sharper version. The earlier ones I didn't remember writing. And between them, more lines. Like, you changed because you couldn't live with it. You replaced it with something easier. You thought if you rewrote it enough times, it would be true. I scrolled faster now, desperate, near the bottom. A final line, new, unfamiliar. You're still doing it. My reflection stared back at me from the dark edge of the screen. I didn't recognize the person looking back at me, not completely. And the cursor blinked, waiting. And beneath everything, one last sentence appeared. You're the revision. You already read this. You don't remember this story, and that's normal. Most people don't, at least not the first time they reread it. There's a specific kind of post that floats around late at night, buried in forums, half-deleted threads, archive sites that load slower than they should. There's no author or timestamp that makes sense, just a title that feels familiar. That's where you found this. Or maybe not this version, but maybe an earlier one. It usually starts the same way. If you're reading this, you've already read it before. You probably rolled your eyes at that. Everyone does. You thought it was another gimmick, a cheap hook, the kind of thing designed to make you second-guess yourself for a few seconds before moving on. But you didn't move on, did you? No, you kept reading. You always do. The first time, nothing seemed wrong. You read straight through. There's no glitching text, no hidden messages, no obvious trick. Just a story about memory. About how unreliable memory is. About how easy the brain fills in gaps, rewrites events, smooths over inconsistencies. There's a section about browser caching, about how your system stores fragments of pages locally, things like text and images and scripts, so they can be loaded faster next time. It explains that sometimes under very specific conditions, those fragments can behave unpredictably. Old versions mixing with new ones, lines appearing where they shouldn't, data resurfacing out of order. You remember that part, right? You thought it was interesting. You even paused there for a second, You don't remember pausing? Well, that's fine. Just keep going. Because the story shifts after that. It starts asking questions. Not directly. And nothing obvious. Just small, passing lines woven into the text. And things like, you didn't finish reading this last time. Or, you skipped ahead here. You almost closed the tab. And I know, you probably dismissed those too. They're generic, vague enough to apply to anyone. Except, there's a line you didn't like. A very specific one. You don't remember it now, but when you saw it, it made you stop scrolling, just for a second, and you scrolled back up. And there's something strange about rereading digital text. You expect it to stay fixed, static, identical. But sometimes, rarely, but sometimes you get the feeling that it isn't. That something's shifted, not enough to prove anything, just enough to make you unsure. That's when you checked the URL. You always check the URL. But it hadn't changed, so you kept reading. The story continued, explaining that memory isn't just unreliable, it's editable. Not consciously, of course, not like choosing to forget something, but passively, constantly. Every time you recall something, you reconstruct it, and every reconstruction introduces errors. Then it said, "This isn't your first reconstruction of this story." You do remember that line, or at least you feel like you should. There was a section about recursive text structures, how certain patterns, when read repeatedly, can begin to feel different each time. Not because they've changed, but because you have. It compared it to looking at the same image twice and noticing something new. Except this wasn't something new. It was something you missed before. And then came the part you don't remember at all. You're not supposed to. The first time you reread this, there were no hidden lines. Nothing between the paragraphs, nothing in the gaps, just clean text. But the second time, things started reappearing, not all at once and not obviously, just small additions. A sentence where there hadn't been one before, a line that didn't match the tone of the rest, something that felt inserted. You didn't notice the first one, and almost no one does, right? It was right after the paragraph about caching, a single line that said, "You refreshed the page here." You didn't question it because you had refreshed the page. You remember that, don't you? No? That's okay. Just keep reading. The next one appears a little later, usually when you're more invested, less skeptical. It says, "You thought about sending this to someone." And that one lingers, because it's true, or again, it feels true, right? You probably are thinking about that right now. But that's not the one that matters. No, the one that matters is further down. It's near the end, where people stop reading carefully, where they assume nothing new's coming. That's where it gets specific. You hesitated before opening this the second time. And that's when something shifts, a small, quiet realization that this story isn't just describing general behavior. It actually is describing your behavior. So you scroll back up again, faster this time, looking for differences, for proof, and that's when you notice it. There are more lines now, ones you're sure weren't there before. Between paragraphs, at the end of sentences, sometimes just a few words. They say things like, "They're all about you. You read this around 2:13 a.m. You're on your phone. You're alone." Your chest tightens a little because one of those is definitely wrong, isn't it? You check the time. It's close enough. You keep scrolling. More lines. More specific. They say, "You almost stopped here. You went back anyway. You always go back." You reach the final section, or at least what you think is the final section, and there's a paragraph you don't recognize. You're certain of it this time. It wasn't here before. It says, "By now, you've realized this isn't your first time reading this version, either." Now you stop, actually stop. Not just scrolling or pausing, stopping. You stop stopping because that doesn't make sense. There shouldn't be different versions. Unless... You scroll up again, desperate now, and the text isn't the same. It's not in a dramatic way. Still, no flickering, no glitching. Just different. Lines you remember are gone. Lines you don't remember are there. And buried in the middle, a sentence you've definitely never seen before. You chose to keep reading last time, too. Your throat goes dry because that implies a choice, and a repeated one. You certainly don't remember making it. You reach the end again, and there's one final addition, a line that wasn't there before, couldn't have been. It says, "You're going to reread this." You stare at it, confused, waiting for it to change, for something else to appear. But nothing does, not this time. For a moment, you consider closing the tab and just leaving, forgetting the whole thing. But there's a problem. It's a small problem, easy to ignore. But you're not entirely sure if you already tried that.
Horror.
You're listening to Nerd Horror Stories, a twice-weekly horror anthology series. No commentary, no long intros, just stories. Stories to fall asleep to, stories to keep you awake, and stories that feel close to home. Please subscribe